All right, it looks like we're missing Senator Carley, so I would ask the Sergeant at Arms at this time to locate him and ask him to return to the floor. We will be at ease until he is here. And I want to remind everyone, the rules say you cannot leave the floor without my permission.
Welcome to a special episode of Searchlight Report. I'm Meghan O'Brien with South Dakota Searchlight. The state Senate got a shakeup this week. Absences from two different lawmakers during key votes left legislators and spectators with questions and concern, and even caused a search for one of them. That included reviewing security footage, looking for the lawmaker's car in the parking lot, and enlisting the governor to call the missing senator, all to no avail, and with consequences for a pair of bills. You just heard from Lieutenant Governor Tony Venhuizen, who serves as president of the state Senate. He was reminding senators of the provisions for what's known as a call to the House. The tension started last month during the beginning of the legislative session, with Senator Archbeel's absence. The Sioux Falls Republican has been excused all session for health reasons. His being gone leaves the state Senate with 34 members, increasing the likelihood of tie votes. Earlier this session, Venhuizen cast a vote to break a tie, as he says is part of his role in presiding over the state Senate. Senate President pro tempore Chris Carr challenged Venhuizen's authority to vote, and the governor requested an opinion from the state Supreme Court. The court said Venhuizen could cast a vote in the event of a tie. There have been ties since the decision, but Venhuizen typically doesn't vote.
My general idea is that I'm not going to break a tie unless it is a bill that I feel strongly about weighing into, or that the administration feels strongly about weighing into. And on bills that we aren't really taking a position on one way or the other, I think most of the time it makes sense to let the legislative process play out, and senators can move to reconsider and try to find a vote to flip their way and pass it if they want, and that's what's happened on those bills. So,
on Monday this week, state senators were voting on two bills from Madison Republican Casey Crabtree. Both dealt with incentives for data centers, a controversial topic in this year's legislature. Some lawmakers want to encourage data center construction, and others want to restrict it. Supporters say data centers are opportunities for economic development. Others are concerned that the extreme electrical demands of data centers could require new power plants, which other electrical customers might have to pay for with higher rates. There are also concerns about water demands for cooling, noises from humming servers, and other issues. One of Crabtree's bills would have given sales tax rebates for data centers. It failed 17 to 16. A bill needs 18 votes, a majority of members elect, to pass in the Senate. Everyone expected Beal's absence, but Del Rapids Republican Tom Pischke was also absent from the Senate chamber for the vote, even though he had been in the building. Pischke's absence meant there was no possibility of a tie that Venhuizen could choose to break. The Senate began to consider a second data center bill from Crabtree. It would have implemented a state permitting exemption for backup generators, which are commonly used for data centers. Pischke was absent again. As Venhuizen moderated the debate, Aberdeen Republican Senator Michael Rohl decided to take action.
thank you. Further remarks on Senate Bill 193. Senator Rohl.
Mr. President, pursuant to 2-2, I would make a motion to call all members in the Capitol, do a call of the House for all members in the Capitol.
Just a moment. Senator Rohl has moved, and it has been seconded for a call of the House, which is Joint Rule 2-2. The rule reads, 1/6 of the members of either House may compel the attendance of absent members by ordering a call of the House of which they are members, but a call of the House may not be made after voting on the bill commences, which it has not. So it takes 1/6 of the members elect. Is he supported? He is. Would the Sergeant at Arms see if you can locate Senator Pischke?
The vote on the generator bill began again.
Senators Beal excused, Blanc, Carley, Crabtree, Davis,
this time with Pischke in his seat.
Pischke.
Am I allowed to abstain?
The vote tied at 17, including a no vote from Pischke. Venhuizen chose not to cast a vote, effectively defeating the bill. Crabtree announced his intent to seek reconsideration on both of the bills the next day, which lawmakers can do when the vote is close. We'll go through Tuesday's events after this short break.
Hi, it's Moses Eshet, Product Associate at States Newsroom. At States Newsroom, we have more than 200 reporters and editors working for you. Our journalists are located in all 50 state capitals and Washington, D.C., providing state-focused news coverage about the issues that matter most to you and your community. You can support our work by going to statesnewsroom.com/subscribe.
Tuesday in the state capitol was expected to be a long day. Known as Crossover Day, it's the last chance for House bills to be approved by the House and for Senate bills to make it through the Senate. Searchlight reporter Joshua Haiar says there was suspense that carried over from Monday.
There was anticipation that some senator was going to not be on the floor. That was pretty clear in that highway patrolmen were already throughout the building. They were kind of standing around the Senate. And so it was pretty clear that there was concern or a sense that someone was going to leverage the parliamentary maneuver of leaving the building to prevent any 17-17 votes.
As Secretary of the Senate Peggy Lorenz began taking roll,
Senators Beal, Blanc, Carley, Crabtree, Davis, Dybert, Duhamel,
it became clear that
Foster,
someone wasn't at their desk.
I think everybody goes, well, Carley's the guy who is going to be missing today. I think everybody was waiting to see who it'd be. And, you know, he wasn't in caucus, as I understand. And that was kind of the first red flag for folks of where is he?
Piedmont Senator John Carley had voted against both data center bills Monday. Despite his absence Tuesday afternoon, the Senate proceeded through its first order of business, reconsideration of Crabtree's backup generator bill. Senate President pro tempore Chris Carr challenged the reconsideration motion because the bill had already been reconsidered once before. Before Monday's tie vote, there had been a tie vote on the bill the previous week. The bill was amended Monday, but Carr said that didn't justify another reconsideration.
In looking at this, and even every time that you call on us to vote, we say that the question before us is final passage of this bill. And I think that is the question that is being asked and answered by a simple amendment, by changing a letter or a word, does not create a new question.
Senator Pischke was present this time, and he agreed with Carr.
This rule was actually brought about around the 2019 or 2020 session. At that time over in the House, we had an issue where a representative continued to bring a bill over and over and over, bringing amendment after amendment after amendment to encourage final passage of that legislation. So I would also agree with the good senator from Minnehaha that the intent of this rule, based on historical knowledge of being over there in the House when this rule was brought about, is that it should only be 2 cracks at the apple, and that is that the question is final passage. Thank you.
I think you mean 2 bites at the apple.
Besides correcting Pischke's phrasing, Lieutenant Governor Van Huysen also disagreed with Pischke's point.
My ruling is that it is eligible because when a bill is amended, it becomes a new question because you are passing a different bill, and therefore it has only been reconsidered once.
As the votes on Carr's challenge shook out,
Mr. President, we have 20 yeas, 13 nays, 1 excused, and 1 absent.
Van Huysen's ruling was overturned, and the motion to reconsider was rejected, effectively defeating the bill. The Senate moved to its next item of business, reconsidering Crabtree's sales tax rebate bill for data centers.
Further remarks? Senator Rowell.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it appears that we are a member short that was here today, so I move 2-2 and ask for a call of the House of the Senate.
Second.
It's been moved by Senator Rowell and seconded to make a call of the House. That is Rule 2-2, which reads, 1/6 of the members-elect of either House may compel the attendance of absent members by ordering a call of the House of which they are members, but a call of the House may not be made after voting commences, which it has not. It takes 1/6. Is he supported? He is supported. When a call of the House is ordered, the doors must be closed and the absentees noted. Would the Sergeant-at-Arms please close the doors? No member may leave until permission is given by the presiding officer of the floor session, that would be me, the sergeant at arms report is received and acted upon, or the House is adjourned. Of course, we just had this happen yesterday, and it looks like we're missing Senator Carley, so I would ask the sergeant at arms at this time to locate him and ask him to return to the floor. We will be at ease until he is here.
Haiar was covering the Senate session that day.
I think it was a bit of mix of emotions. I mean, there was definitely, within the Senate floor, there were folks who were exceptionally irritated about the absence for a number of different reasons. One, I don't want to be here longer than I have to. There were folks who were hoping for particularly those two data center bills, that those could get through with a 17-17 vote with Lieutenant Governor Tony Venhuizen breaking that tie. And so there was that frustration. And it all the way ranged to excitement and some people kind of having fun with it. I mean, the lobbyists in the hallways were sharing memes of, Carley San Diego being missing and got milk cartons with his face on it. Once it's announced, there was quite a bit of color there. You'd see highway patrolmen running throughout the building. The sergeant at arms were, checking the Supreme Court library. Highway patrolmen were looking at the security camera footage to try to identify, and where they kind of concluded was they had video of him in the building. They didn't have video of him leaving the building. They had his car being missing.
After nearly an hour spent searching, the Senate sergeant at arms was back with his report for Lieutenant Governor Venhuizen.
He has spoken to several members of the Senate, none of whom have any knowledge of his whereabouts. Several members of the Senate have tried to call him, and he is not answering the phone. The governor tried to call him, and he did not answer the phone. The security cameras have been reviewed. He was seen leaving the Appropriations Committee at 11:03 a.m., and then was in the back of the Senate at 11:37 a.m. They have searched all the offices in the building and have not found him. The Highway Patrol has searched the parking lot for his car, and it is not here.
Carr and 18 other senators won in a vote to move forward with the business of the day. The motion to reconsider Crabtree's sales tax bill lost on a 16-17 vote. Senator Roll then pulled all bills from the consent calendar, a list of bills that are uncontested by a committee and can pass on a single vote without debate. This added 10 bills for discussion to the Senate's already packed agenda. He also, later in the day, invoked another rarely used rule to the aggravation of some other senators. I'll be back with more after this break.
Hi, this is Seth Tupper, editor at South Dakota Searchlight. Our team covers the most important conversations happening at the state capitol every day of the legislative session. We cover plans to tackle property tax relief and funding for public schools, as well as conversations around reproductive rights and data centers. You can find all that and more at SouthDakotaSearchlight.com, where you can also subscribe to our free newsletter and donate to sustain our journalism into the future.
The state Senate had decided to continue through its agenda, despite not knowing the whereabouts of Senator John Carley, a Piedmont Republican. They moved on to bills unrelated to data centers.
Senate Bill 221, an act to regulate the retail sale of nicotine products and to provide a penalty therefor.
Senate Bill 221, having had its second reading, is up for consideration and final passage. Are there any remarks? Senator Roll.
Thank you, Mr. President. Pursuant to the South Dakota Constitution, Article 3, Section 17, I would demand a reading of length.
You would demand what?
A reading in length.
Article 3, Section 17 of the Constitution allows that one reading at length be demanded any time before passage. It is our belief that that request can be made by any one member, and that has been made. So at this time, the Secretary will read Senate Bill 221 in full.
Be it enacted by the legislature of the state of South Dakota. Section 1.
Secretary of the Senate Peggy
Sections
Lorenz
10
laughed as she began reading from the 15
-1
pages of legislation.
be amended.
Senators in the chamber and lobbyists in the halls could be heard talking as the reading of the bill dragged on. Senator Roll, who called for Lorenz to read the bill, was eventually gone from the floor, and Senate Majority Leader Jim Melhoff noticed his absence.
Nicotine product, a product intended for human consumption
Mr. President.
containing.
Senator Melhoff.
Excuse me. I would like to invoke the rule for a call of the House for Senator from Brown Day.
Well, fortunately, I have a lot of recent experience with that rule. You are invoking a call of the House, Rule 2-2, which requires the support of 1/6 of the members. So please stand if you support that. You are supported. So we'll go ahead and close the doors again. All the senators need to get back in here, and you can't leave unless I give you permission. And the Sergeant at Arms needs to go find Senator Roll. And if you happen to run into Senator Carley, you could bring him back too. And while we're doing that, please be quiet because the Secretary is going to continue reading the bill.
And section number 3, retailer, a person engaged in the business of selling a nicotine product to an individual.
The legislation runs more than 3,000 words.
Resale.
The Sergeant at Arms has reported that he located Senator Roll and is back in his seat, so the call of the House is over.
Lorenz continued reading
28.2, all lists of taxpayers.
until Senator Pischke interjected.
First and foremost, I want to thank the clerk for continuing her good service here and give her a little bit of a break. Number two, I would like to know if it would be in order to have the good senator from District 1 read the remaining parts of the bill out loud.
Well, the Constitution doesn't say who reads it, and so I guess I would say that if he would like to read the remainder of it, that's up to him. Hey, can you show him where you left off?
I got it, I'm following. The Secretary of the Department of Revenue or an agent of the Secretary may, during normal business hours, inspect the roads and premises.
Roll read the remainder of the bill.
Well, the body might be wondering why we just read that bill, and the reason that we read that bill is because people did not have the opportunity to come testify on the bill, and that there is significant problems. But furthermore, I wanted the body to understand exactly how many fees are in this, how many regulations we're putting on business, and how it was all kind of done in the dark of night and on a very quick stage. We just heard from the previous speaker that we know this bill has problems, but we can just fix them later. The second this leaves this chamber, there is no guarantee we ever see this bill again.
All the while, no one knew the whereabouts of Senator John Carley. He was in his seat on a budget-setting committee the next morning when Searchlight's Joshua Haiar asked where he'd been.
Well, when Carley returned, the next day I asked him, why were you gone? And he told me he had an eye doctor appointment. And I asked, did you schedule an eye doctor appointment on crossover day? And he says it was a medical emergency, more or less. And when pressed on, why didn't you tell anybody? It was more or less no comment. I think there's a strong sense from the legislature that Carley did not have an eye doctor appointment, and he was replicating what he saw, whether Pischke intended or not, what he saw happen the day prior. I can't confirm or deny whether or not that's true, but that certainly seems to be where most people have landed as the case. And the feelings within the Senate, what's interesting is that, what undergirds this behavior in the eyes of some, for example, Senator Chris Carr, it is the Supreme Court decision that was issued, which said a 17-17 tie vote can be broken by the lieutenant governor. And their view is, well, no, it says you need 18 members elect of the Senate. And so they think there's absurdity there. And so Carley would argue in his mind that he is better representing his district by not being there because an absence in this context is stronger than a no vote.
But the executive branch, that is Governor Larry Roden and his Lieutenant Governor Tony Van Huysen, disagree with the sentiment. Roden and Van Huysen spoke about it at a Thursday press conference.
It's really been a distraction we don't need, and quite frankly, kind of belittled some of the important issues that we're here to resolve. I was, as you recall, in ancient history, I was lieutenant governor for 6 years, and I had a number of chances to vote, and I never did, because if we were neutral on a position or opposed it, there was no reason to vote, and I stayed clear of it. But this isn't rocket surgery. You know, we have a history in our nation. You know, our federal government runs the same way as the state does, for good reason. And it's called checks and balances. And in my time in the legislature and as lieutenant governor, I've seen a few times when the ability of the lieutenant governor to preside over the Senate has paid dividends because of that check and balance.
The idea that the Supreme Court ruling introduced this dynamic doesn't consider the fact that this had been the common understanding of how the tie-breaking power worked and how it has always worked really since statehood. So I don't really see how you can argue that this introduced a change or a new dynamic when it is not a new dynamic. It was the common understanding and how it has been applied all along. I think since I've been lieutenant governor, I think there were 4 ties last year, and this year there have been 5 or 6, and I only voted for a bill on final passage once, and that was the bill that prompted this challenge, and that vote was set aside. And then I voted once for a procedural motion, but in almost every instance I choose not to vote. And I've always told senators if they want to come talk to me ahead of time about what I'm thinking on a potential tie, I'm happy to do that, and I have done that when I'm asked. But I really think that this focus on the procedure is really kind of unfortunate when we have things that we need to be resolving here in the last 2 weeks.
Senator Casey Crabtree, whose data center bills were defeated during all of the chaos, made a pointed joke about the situation Wednesday afternoon in the Senate.
I'd like to introduce my high school sweetheart, my girlfriend, and now wife, Ashley Crabtree. Ash, would you stand up? So she not only keeps everything on track at the house, she runs her own business as a successful optometrist and eye doctor. And we know how important those eye doctors are. So I thought I'd have her come in here to make sure nobody needed to go anywhere else. They could stay here and vote today. It was going to be awesome.
Though Crabtree's data center bills are dead for now, they could come back as amendments to other bills during the final 2 weeks of the legislative session. That's all we have for this week on Searchlight Report. The podcast is based on reporting by South Dakota Searchlight's staff, editor Seth Tupper, senior reporter John Holt, and reporters Joshua Haiar, Mackenzie Huber, and me. I write the scripts and produce the audio, with editing by Seth Tupper. Audio this week came from recordings by South Dakota Searchlight and legislative live streams provided by South Dakota Public Broadcasting. South Dakota Searchlight is part of States Newsroom, the nation's largest nonprofit news organization. Until next time, I'm South Dakota Searchlight's Meghan O'Brien with the Searchlight Report.